Welcome to the ID Den podcast, the show for teachers ready to step outside the classroom and into their next chapter. I'm your host, Charity Bosch, and I know firsthand how overwhelming it can feel to leave teaching behind. Whether you're exploring instructional design, navigating corporate culture, or just figuring out your first steps, this show is your roadmap. Each episode will tackle the real challenges, share practical strategies, and prove that your teaching skills are exactly what the world needs, just in a different setting. Let's turn that classroom expertise into your career advantage. In today's episode, I want to talk about a common pain point that I see a lot of transitioning teachers feel when trying to get a job in instructional design, and that is technology overwhelm. This is when you start experiencing the tech pain reality check. When you start thinking things like, I don't know Articulate or Captivate or Adobe Creative Suite, and you start questioning whether or not you are going to be able to do instructional design because of all the multitude of technology that could be used in the job feels overwhelming. You might see job postings that list 15 plus different tools. You might start feeling like everyone else is a tech wizard and you're stuck in the dark ages. Can't tell you how many teachers I have talked to that say, I am not tech savvy. I don't know how to use anything. When in reality, yes, you do. Sometimes it can feel paralyzing to see the sheer number of options available, especially when you get to a category like learning management systems where there are thousands of options. This is where we typically encounter the voice that starts saying, I'm not tech savvy enough for this. I'm not going to be able to use these tools. This hits teachers extra hard because classroom tech often is limited or outdated. And you've not really had to learn multiple tools quickly any other time in your career. School districts are often slow to adapt new technology. Think about AI right now. It's the hot new thing, and it's going to take years for school districts to know how to implement it effectively, safely, all of those sorts of things. So by the time AI actually hits school in an official approved capacity, it's going to have been a few years. And all of a sudden, you're facing enterprise level software. The real problem behind the overwhelm is typically starting with analysis paralysis. That is preventing you from taking any action because you don't even know where to start. You can also spend months researching instead of doing, assuming that you need to master everything before you can even start applying, comparing your beginner skills to expert portfolios that you see online. You have the fear that you'll pick the wrong tool to learn first and then waste time, and then you don't get started at all. So, what are the benefits of overcoming technology overwhelm? First, you're going to have confidence in interviews when questions about tools come up. You are also going to be able to actually create portfolio pieces. It'll give you the understanding of which tools solve which problems and are used in what ways. It will give you the ability to speak intelligently on applications or in interviews. And it also gives you a foundation for continued learning in your career because let's be honest, new tools pop up all the time. So let's take a strategic approach to learning the tech instead of A, feeling paralyzed and not being able to start, and B, just fumbling through things and not getting the results that you need and want to get. First, you don't need to know everything. Focus on categories, not individual tools. Understanding the principles of the tools in the category is going to transfer between the different tools in the category. When I'm talking about learning management systems, again, there's thousands of them out there. When you boil it down, though, they all basically do the same thing, and they usually have very similar functions to do that thing. There are little features that are going to be changing between the different options. There's going to be certain industries that the different option was built for than something else. And that's when you get into the differences. But understanding the basics and the main principles, it's going to transfer between any tool within that category. And keep in mind that when you get a job, companies will train you on their specific setup. Not every company uses Articulate, Rise, or Storyline. Some use Captivate. So they want you to know what a course authoring tool is. They want you to be able to speak to that. They want you to know the gist of it, but they're going to end up training you on what their specific setup is. Your learning ability matters more than any current knowledge that you might have. So, solution number 1, research the top tools by category. I did an entire episode on this, episode 15, overview of popular ID tools and software. That would be a great place to go back and re-listen, or if you haven't listened yet, listen for the first time. But focus on 1 to 2 tools per category max. That will give you enough understanding to be able to speak intelligently on applications and interviews without getting into all the minute differences and details. Solution number 2, get trial access and experiment. Once you have done the research, you've looked into 1 to 2 tools max per category. Most tools are going to offer a 30-day free trial. Articulate 360 gives you Rise and Storyline access in their trial. Canva also has a pretty robust free version. You don't need the pro version. Just make sure that you're not wasting your trials. Make sure that you're planning out your projects first, and then you are able to build when the trial starts instead of starting a trial and then wasting some of your trial time planning the projects. Make sure that you also set specific learning goals for yourself for each trial period. What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to build a portfolio piece? Are you trying to be able to speak to the features within the tool? Make sure that when you're going into these trials, you have goals for yourself that you're trying to accomplish, because that gives you focus and purpose while you're playing around with the tool. Solution 3, leverage tool reviews. G2.com is a great place to go for honest user reviews. You can look up the specific tool and see all sorts of reviews, different ratings. You can see feature lists. It provides a lot of information. And then make sure that you're looking at the features, pricing, and ease of use. Read what the actual users love and hate. Make sure that you're looking out for those best for beginners callouts, or intuitive, or ease of use, or beginner friendly, or things like that in those, because that's going to give you an idea. And trust the score ratings from verified users. Sometimes people get on there and they've had a bad sales experience and they might give it a bad review. So make sure that you are looking for those verified users and trust those score ratings. I have seen a lot of companies on there that might look good. They might have 4.2 out of 5 stars or whatever. And I've personally used them and they're not great. So take those score ratings with a grain of salt and really dive into the user reviews and the comments that are left. Also keep in mind that you have a teaching connection. Many of the tools work like familiar classroom software. For example, PowerPoint skills are going to transfer to most presentation tools. They also transfer to course authoring tools like Storyline or iSpring or Captivate. And so it's not always going to feel like you're just starting over brand new. Also remember that your ability to learn new ed tech translates directly from your teaching experience. You've had to potentially pivot from projectors to a TV screen that connects to your computer. And so you've had to make these jumps in your career here and there. And that translates directly into making the jump into instructional design software. You've adapted to these changes before. You can do it again. Here's what not to do. Don't try to learn 5 different tools all at the same time. That's going to be overwhelming. You're not going to be able to make the best use of your trials. Don't do too much at once. Also, don't get stuck in tutorial rabbit holes. Make sure that you're going in with intention and purpose and with a specific goal in mind. Otherwise, you're just going to get stuck in the rabbit hole of the tutorial and not accomplish anything. And then you're going to have to find or create a new email to try the tutorial again. Make sure that you're not comparing your week 1 skills to someone else's 3-year portfolio. If you've been looking at other instructional design portfolios online, keep in mind that people put their best work up, and it's most likely after having a few years of experience under their belt. Also, don't avoid applying until you're ready. You are probably never going to feel completely ready just because there are so many options. So make sure that you're applying while you learn. This job market also takes a while to get any traction, to get any interviews, to get to that point where you're going to need to speak about it anyways. So apply while you're playing. And then one of the biggest pitfalls that I see a lot is people assume that if something's expensive, then it must be better for learning and it must be the best thing out there. Don't assume that. Expensive does not always equal better for learning. So this is where we want to start shifting your mindset from I need to know all the tools to I need to understand the landscape and be able to get the gist of it to speak intelligently. From I'm not technical enough to I'm a quick learner who adapts well and have had to over the years. Technology is a vehicle, not the destination. It's just a tool to help you with your instructional design expertise. No tool is going to teach you that instructional design expertise, and a lot of that expertise comes from your teaching experience. Build your confidence gradually. Start with one familiar feeling tool. Maybe that's articulate storyline because, again, while it is way more robust than a PowerPoint, it is familiar. It looks and feels almost like building a PowerPoint. Create one simple project all the way to completion. Document what you learned along the way. Celebrate all the small wins along the way before you move on to the next thing. When you're speaking in interviews, you can say things like, I'm proficient in X tool and familiar with Y and Z. An example for me would be I'm actually an expert, but I'm proficient in Articulate, Rise, and Storyline and familiar with Adobe Captivate, iSpring, and Domino. Also, try and use specific examples. I recently completed a project using, and this doesn't have to be a paid project. It doesn't have to be client work. It doesn't have to be a job that you did for a company, especially when you're just starting out and you don't have those. These could be the projects that you're using to build your portfolio. I recently completed a project using Articulate Rise. You don't have to say, as a trial when I was trying to learn it. You completed a project. You're being truthful. There's nothing that you need to worry about there. And you can show through that you have experience with that tool. Also, you can get a little bit more vague about things like I'm always excited to learn new tools. When I was a teacher, I was the first to adopt XYZ when it rolled out in the school district. My teaching background helps me master software quickly. Use a combination of those specific examples and some vague statements, but make sure that you're not just using vague statements. You want to make sure that you are able to provide specific examples. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure that you share this with teacher friends who are considering a change, and connect with me on Instagram at the ID Den. Technology overwhelm is temporary. Tech fluency is permanent. Your teaching background is going to make you a faster learner than you think. Pick one tool, try one project with it, and then expand from there. The best time to start was yesterday. The second best time is now.